Alright, welcome back to XXI Guitars. This is the electric bass series. I've done a few things since the last time. I've sanded this guy down to about 100 grit, removed all the burns, got through a lot of the stuff that's on here that needed it. Did a little bit of cosmetic stuff from a little bit of stuff that needed it. Went ahead and did a little bit more sanding on the neck. I sanded and rounded the edges on the headstock, and just kind of addressed anything that really needed it. You know, just kind of getting it down to final shape so that way I can route some pickup cavities and I can route a control cavity on the back. And that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to take you over to the bench and we're going to show you how to mount the pickups on here, how to route a cavity around it. I'm not going to use a template, and the reason I'm not going to use one for the control cavity, but I'm not going to use one for here. And the reason I'm not is it's a small route, it's easy. I'm going to knock out and show you how to hog out the middle, get all the bulk out of there, and then come back and just kind of nick the sides, and that'll be all she wrote. It'll be nice and easy. So to take you over to the bench and show you how to line all that stuff up, and we'll be starting from there. So what I did was I measured, I have a 34-inch scale. I measured 17 inches from the end of the 12th fret here down, and I marked a location approximately down here where my bridge is going to land. It doesn't need to be high science at this point. I'm just going to give you somewhere where you can slide the bridge on so you can see about where it needs to go. So that's going to be right about where my bridge is going to be. So now you have two pickup covers if you're doing jazz pickups. One of them is going to be slightly longer than the other one. The longer one is going to be your bridge pickup, and that's because the spread of the strings is wider down here than it is up top where it gets skinnier. Your neck pickup's a little bit skinnier. So we're going to put this one up here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little cover on here that I made and cover that up so that way I know I'm not going to route into it. I'm going to go ahead and put that on there and line those two guys up. And they look pretty good, and that's going to be about where I put them. Back one's probably about 1.5 inches from the bridge, and the front one's about as close as I can get to my cap here, just because we want to warm that sound up a little bit, so we want to get a sound from a little closer to the middle. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to square these up. I'm just using a regular square and one of the lines on here as a reference. I'm going to hold it down and using the sharpest pencil you can possibly find. Either machine sharpen it or sharpen it with a knife and get it as fine as you possibly can. I'm going to strike a line all the way around here, and those are going to be the locations that I'm going to route. Now I'm going to do the routing with a Dremel and a router base, and over here it's going to be a little bit difficult because of where the neck is, so I'm going to switch to a smaller base. And all I'm going to do is just set it on here, and I'm going to route out. What you want to do is route out the middle portions first, the big stuff. Route all that out, and then come back and just kind of nick the edges, and you won't dig your router in, or your Dremel in. It'll be really easy to go ahead and flush that stuff out. And what I've got to do too, before I do that, is I need to check my string height coming over here. I need to mount these guys a little bit below it. You can put some springs on the bottom of here, which is what most folks do. You drive the screws through, and as you loosen the screws, the pickup will rise, so you can get the exact right sound out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get these guys put in, mark around them, and start routing. And we should have a couple of pickup pockets pretty quick. And then we'll flip it over, we'll do the control cavity, and then we'll drill some holes through for a ground wire, for the pickup wires, for everything to get down where it needs to get down to. And then we should be ready to put some finish. Actually, we'll be ready to do a final sanding at that point. We'll get it down to 220 and address any other little cosmetic issues that might need it. And then we'll be good to go to do some finishing from there. I've got the pickup locations marked. And again, like I said, I just traced the pickup covers because that's what's going to be going in. And they'll sit there just like that. Now what I'm going to do, I've got my Dremel and I've got a spiral cutter bit, and I'm setting it to about 1/8, you know, not too much. And I'm just going to go ahead and start hogging out the middle portion here, getting the vast majority of it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sink these pickups just about all the way to the length of these little guys here, the screw mounts. I'm going to sink them probably just a little bit further than that, because like I said, I'm going to get a couple of springs, put them on the bottoms of here underneath the screws, so that way I'll be able to back them out and raise them and lower them as I need to. So I'm going to come along with the Dremel, and I'll show you a couple minutes of this. And it's just pretty easy. Just get it over. Actually, I'll do this one first, probably a little bit easier. Just get it over the top, put on some safety glasses, and just start routing out the middles. You don't want to come too close to the line. Come within probably 1/2 of the bit width to the line, so that way you don't hit anything. And then you just kind of keep going like that until you achieve the depth, and then come back and we'll scrape off the edges. A good way you can do this too is depending on what type of bit you're using. I'm using this little spiral downcut or spiral upcut. Downcut's a little bit better, doesn't shear up as much fuzz, but you use what you got. I use this little guy because after what I did on the first pickup, I just routed to depth and then I came back and I shaved it. It took a lot of time shaving a really thick area like this. This is 5/8 of an inch deep. So what I did over on this side was I routed down just about 1/8 of an inch, hogged out all the middle, and then I came back and I very delicately did the outside edge. I checked to make sure the piece fit, you know, which is important obviously. And then I started going deeper and deeper and deeper until I was deep enough that the edge could ride on the end of the shank here. Then all I had to do was back it up against the edge and just go ahead and buzz it on through, and it took out everything and followed the top profile, which is what I only had to do first. So that's all done, that's all in. Now I'm going to move on to the control cavity in the rear. The plans for that, I'm going to lay out my buttons here first, kind of see where I want them, where everything looks, and then I'm going to draw myself just a really, really nice shape on here, and I'm going to cut out a template that actually goes on top. Now it's only going on top so that way I can make sure all my buttons fit. What I'm going to do is then take it and put it underneath, and I'll be able to trace it out, and that one I'm going to cut out with a template guide and a set of router collets, and I'll show you how to do that. But basically it'll let me get all 3 of my buttons on here, see what they look like, and then kind of go from there. And actually I got the 3 buttons. I got the 3 buttons right here. So what I'm going to do, a little dusty, go ahead and place my bridge about where it's going to be, and then start doing a little layout. You know, start doing a little layout for your buttons, you know, your knobs, you know, and kind of see where you want them to be. You know, I'm probably going to do something like this, you know, down here, just a little different. And I think that'll look kind of cool. So I'll get my thing down here, get all that checked out, go ahead and make me a template that fits, and then I'll show you how to do the router collet deal. Now moving around my little router base, I definitely polished up some areas on here and I scratched up some areas on here, so I'm going to come back, again, this is why I saved the sanding for last, come back up to the 220, sand it all, and I'm also going to bevel these just slightly. Not very much, but just slightly, so that way, you know, I get a good finish adhesion and stuff like that. Don't have any corners. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and start, you know, find me a piece of wood here and start cutting me out a template.